This is Blaine Moore from RunToWin.com, and today I'd like to talk about a few of the advantages that trail running has over road running. Now, the biggest thing for me is that I just find trail running a lot more fun. So you'll find that that's a common theme among a lot of trail runners, is that they just enjoy being out there on the trails a lot more than they do on the roads. Now, one of the other big advantages is that you take a lot less of a pounding on a trail run than you would on a road run a similar distance. Now, the reason for that is you're running on generally softer surfaces. You don't have the exact same density of surface that you're running on the whole time, so it changes up a lot, and it's a lot less jarring to be on the trails than it tends to be when you're running solely on the roads. Big advantage of that is that recovery becomes a lot easier because you're not beating yourself up quite as much. So when you get home from your run, you may have had to work a little bit harder, but you're going to feel a lot better a lot quicker than you would after doing a long run on the roads. Another advantage of the constantly changing terrain is that you don't get as many overuse injuries. When you're on the roads, you tend to take the same repetitive motion over and over again. You kind of just dial in whatever your running form is, then that's what you're going to be doing. Now, if you don't have the perfect running form, that's going to be problematic because any problems that you do have are just going to be exacerbated by just constantly repeating them for thousands of steps over the course of your run. When you're running on trails, every step is potentially going to be different because you have to step around roots and around rocks, and you tend to have better running form in general because you need to take shorter steps just to be able to navigate some of the trails that you might be running on. Now, the consequence of that is that trail running is more fun because you're a lot more in tune with what you're doing rather than just being able to zone out and listen to your iPod as you just cruise on down the road. Now, one of the other big advantages of being on the trail is that there's a lot less traffic than what you find on the roads. I hate running with traffic. You have the fumes and the pollution. If there's no cars, it's a lot more difficult to get hit by a car. I've been hit before, and I'm not a big fan of that, especially when you get into winter-type conditions when the roads are icy and the snow tends to encroach on the shoulder, and cars are just whizzing by. Just a couple of feet away from you. It's a lot nicer to be on the trails where you just don't have to worry about it. Not only do you have less to worry about when you're running in terms of getting hit by traffic, but the air is just so much cleaner because you don't have so many fumes and you have all of the trees and other plant life around you. Now, from a purely physical standpoint, you can build a lot more strength a lot easier on trails because you have to work a little bit harder. There's much less energy return for each step that you take. When you run on the roads and you take a step, a lot of the energy from each one of your strides gets returned, and you actually don't have to work as hard to keep running. But when you're on dirt or on grass, a lot of that energy just gets absorbed by the ground, so you wind up having to work harder to run the same distance, which will build a lot more strength, as well as working different muscle groups. As I mentioned before, you do take different steps with the way that your foot lands. So you use different muscle groups. You work your core a lot more than you tend to on the roads. And on top of that, trails tend to have more hills than your average road will tend to, and the hills aren't constrained by what a car can do. So you get to build some strength a lot from the actual ascent and descent as you're running, which, of course, that's going to be trail or road dependent, but in general, I've found that it tends to be a little bit hillier on the trail runs. And again, that just adds to the fun factor. So you'll notice a constant theme is just a lot more fun to run on trails. There are different risks and dangers to running on trails than on the roads, but then again, there's a lot more benefits. So if you don't have any trail running in your current training schedule, I highly recommend that you add some trail running in and see how that works out for you. If you'd like to have a few tips on how to migrate from the trails to the roads, just check out the the link below here, and that'll bring you to an article that I've written on how a road runner can slowly begin to integrate trails into their running and can just put that in as part of their training plan. So until next time, run safe.